thrift store haul for you, and I was lucky enough to get a text from my local thrift store that said that everything was going to be 40% off today. So I went kind of nuts. But let me count them for you. I think I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 books. 21 books. I got them all together for $40. So that averages out to about a little less than $2 a book. But you'll see some of them are brand new and some of them are quite large, and most of them retail for much more than $2. So some of the books I got were just for me to read. This is Eckhart Tolle's A New Earth. I've been meaning to read this for a while. Every time I pick it up at Barnes & Noble's, it seems a little bit dense and heavy and not particularly enjoyable, so I don't buy it because it retails for $14. But for a buck, it'll go on my to-read list. For those of you with teenagers, Cynthia Voigt is an excellent author. She's probably most famous for her novel Homecoming. This is a book I haven't read by hers, Come a Stranger. When I was a teenager, I loved reading these books. I still feel like a lot of young adult novels are some of the best books around, so I definitely am interested in reading that. This is a book, Simple Abundance. It's by Susan Brethnack, and it's just a day book of joy. As I mentioned before, we're Unitarian Universalists, and my husband comes from a Catholic background. I come from an Islamic background. So I'm not particularly religious, obviously, but I do like to read inspirational quotes and inspirational parables and Bible stories and stories from Buddhism and Hinduism and Islam and anything that, you know, teaches me a lesson about how to be a better person. So this just has like little simple meditations and little essays about, for example, June 15th is Secret Anniversaries of the Heart. July 4th is just an essay about getting personal on the pursuit of happiness. July 11th is Cooking as an Art. A whole variety of topics that I think would be helpful to a mom and a wife. This book I'm super excited about because I feel like everyone has an area that they feel a little bit weaker in academically, and for me that area is definitely geography. For a person with I feel like who's very well read and who's had a very broad education, I have somehow managed to let geography pass me by. So I have a good understanding of the continents and the states and where various countries are. But if you really ask me about where countries in Africa are or countries in South Asia, I'd be a little bit more confused than I'd care to admit. So this is a book called Don't Know Much About Geography by Kenneth C. Davis, and he's the author of the New York Times bestseller Don't Know Much About History, which was a great book. So I'm excited about it. Apparently, he also has Don't Know Much About the Bible, Don't Know Much About the Civil War, Don't Know Much About the Universe. So those might all be books that I'll keep an eye out for in the future. This is The Hours by Michael Cunningham. I love the movie. It won the Pulitzer. I have not read the book, so I'm excited to read that. Again, another one of my favorites from high school, The Scarlet Pimpernel by Baroness Orczy. Just a fabulous classic. So for those of you with teenagers, again, a wonderful classic about the French Revolution and a British gentleman who is a spy / rescuer of French aristocrats. Here's a book by Philippa Gregory, everyone's favorite historical fiction novelist. I think she's a little loosey-goosey on sticking true to historical facts, but nevertheless, she does write very entertaining books. This one's called The Taming of the Queen, about Catherine Parr. I'm listening to the Audible book, The Six Wives of Henry VIII, so I'm particularly into that phase of history right now. I'm in the last of, I think, 27 hours or so. And I'm in the section on Catherine Parr right now. She was the sixth and final wife of Henry VIII, and she managed to keep her head. So that should be an interesting read for me. This is just clean home, green home, because I'm always looking for ways to make our cleaning system greener and more efficient, and trying to cut out environmental toxins from our house. I think people can go a little bit crazy with that. I don't think using Windex once in a while is going to kill you. But I do think that there's a lot of effective natural cleaners that are much healthier for you and much safer for children, especially who tend to put everything in their mouths and eat off the floor and lick the windows. I don't know about your kids, but mine do. And moving on to the kids, here are some books that I found. This is just a second grade fun little, very slender workbook with some math problems and puzzles and word problems. I tend to buy these very thin ones and save them for when we travel. I leave a couple in the car. I put them in their backpacks when we travel, and they get to do some work happily when they get bored. So I don't take them too seriously, but I just get them. This one also happens to have stickers in it, which is always very nice. Here's a nice classic edition of Black Beauty. I always keep an eye out for hardbound classics at the thrift store. You can find them all the time. And my struggle is not to find these. My struggle is not to buy repeats, because I tend to forget sometimes, did I already have a classic copy of Black Beauty? But scanning the shelves behind me, I did not. So I'm very happy to have it. Oops. Here is a cute book. I think it's a little bit early for Gabriel. He's going to be in first grade this year. I'm not going to use it for him this year because I don't know that he can really write book reports, and I don't know that I really want him to. But this is a reader's book log. I thought it was really well formatted. It's just a repeated series of pages. It goes from mapping the story, and it has little bubbles there, to a story comparison. So you have story 1, story 2, and you compare things like the characters, the setting, the problem, the ending. You also have a book review page, which I thought was nice. I used to hate doing book reports when I was a kid, and I loved reading, but I hated book reports. So I thought this would be a nice way to do a short, easy assessment of a book. It goes through the title, the author, the illustrator, what the book is, fiction or nonfiction, the book is mainly about, the part I liked best. I chose this book because I think this book is, and then you can rank it like the best one I've ever read, very good, just okay, or not worth reading, and why. And it has a section in the bottom, which I especially loved, where they list new words that they learned while reading this book. And I think, that's pretty much all you need to do. And the last page is just a little journal page where they have a section to draw a picture and lines to write a little paragraph. And I thought maybe this would be appropriate for second grade or towards the end of first grade, but I'm going to hang on to it for a little bit. I was very excited to find this. This is The Dangerous Book of Boys. Again, another book that I keep seeing at Barnes & Nobles that I want to buy, but I thought to myself, you know what, I'm going to run into this at the thrift store one day, and I did. So this is a lovely book. There is a dangerous book for girls, which I'm also looking for, and personally I think boys can read the girls' ones and girls can read the boys' ones, and probably should. It goes through things like the 7 wonders of the ancient world, and table football, which everyone should know, making a go-kart. It has all sorts of fun things in it. The Navajo Code, first aid, just great. And you'll see the back says recapture Saturday afternoons and long summer days, the perfect book for every boy from 8 to 80. This was listed at $3, and so at 40% off I got it at $1 something. This was cute. Like I said, we're a secular family, but I do want my kids to learn stories from all sorts of religions, including Christianity or the Judeo-Christian tradition. And one of these books is a companion book, a companion workbook to the Children's Discovery Bible. It has cute things. It has recipes that were mentioned in the Bible, or for food that was mentioned in the Bible. It has little stories. So here's the story of Miriam and a memory verse at the bottom. But then it'll also have a little activity. So for example, in Miriam's, it says, Miriam had a really important job to do for her family. Each person in your family has an important job to do. And it goes through which person fixes dinner, which person reads you a story, how do you help your family. draw a picture of your family, and check with your guide. So it has a little prayer for them, like, "Dear God, thank you for my family. We each have a special job. Help me to do my part. Amen." You know, secular or not, I think it's lovely to teach your kids the stories and just the things that parables from any faith can teach us about being a better person. Here's another great book, Tuck Everlasting, listed at the thrift store for $2. So again, I got it for $1 something. Tuck Everlasting is a children's book that I never read, so I'm excited to read it. Really one of the best parts about homeschooling, and one of the parts I'm most excited about, is just learning more and filling in all the gaps in my own education. This one my son will be super, super excited by. Can You See What I See on a Scary, Scary Night? It is a sort of advanced version of I Spy, where you'll see that the photos are very, very detailed, a little more detailed than the typical I Spy. And inside them, instead of having the pictures of what they're supposed to find, they just have a list of things to find. So they have to make that leap of like understanding what it is that they're reading and what they're looking for, and then looking through a more detailed picture. So the regular I Spies are getting a little bit too easy for my son, so I think he'll really enjoy them. Harcourt Brace especially does this series, Treasury of Literature, if you'll see on the side. And there are school textbooks for literature. They're very well done because they do full page renditions or copies of actual real books. So for $1 or so, you can get an entire collection of 10 or 12 or 20 real books with full color reproductions of the illustrations. And they're obviously leveled to a particular grade, so that's helpful. Here is the Baby's Good Morning book. This was very cute. I have sort of an addiction for books that have poems and stories in them. There's the baby. And you know, you can get a lot of Mother Goose books that, sorry, buddy, don't touch the camera. Thank you. You can get a lot of Mother Goose books that basically have the same Mother Goose rhymes all the time, but this one has ones that I've never seen. So a dewdrop, getting out of bed, sunrise. So I thought it would be a nice addition to our morning basket. I also got Frog and Toad all year. I love the Frog and Toad books. I think they're naturally leveled without being dumbed down. So they're really good. And these happen to be the newer editions, so they have a level on them. Handling Your Ups and Downs, a child's book about emotions. My son especially really likes books that teach you about feelings and show you that other kids also have the same types of feelings as you do. So he's laughing at me behind the camera, so I'm laughing. So this one talks about, even though a person might want to feel up all the time, sometimes he or she is going to feel down. And it just goes through and talks about security and anger, and it goes through and has little questions like, have you ever felt guilty? When was the last time you felt guilty? What did you do? How did you handle it? Remember, when you've done something wrong, it is normal for you to feel guilty. But when you feel guilty, try not to lie or pretend as if nothing happened or hide what you've done wrong. I think some of these older books are very, very straightforward about emotions and going through what happens in everyone's normal life. And I don't find so many books now that handle it in such a straightforward way. I see a lot of books that try to pretend that you don't have these negative emotions, that you should always be sailing through life like a perfect person, which nobody does. 10 Fingers, 10 Toes. Really nice quality, nice fat board book for kids. Gabriel Aiden?
I want you to have bunny ears.
Okay. So now I had bunny ears. I think the baby will really like it. It goes through how there's babies from all different parts of the world and all the things that they have in common. I want my children to know very early that we are not all the same, and we should celebrate our differences as well as our similarities. The Velveteen Rabbit. Classic. Hardback. Happy to have it. I have a strong suspicion that I might have another, but I feel like if I do, I'll just give this one away to someone who doesn't have it yet. A Midnight Clear. These are selected family Christmas stories by Catherine Patterson. Catherine Patterson wrote Bridge to Terabithia, which if you have not read it, prepare yourself because you will cry. As an adult, you will cry. One of the best books ever. Won the Newbery. And she's also won the Hans Christian Andersen Award. This is a book I've never heard of. Apparently, she was married to a pastor, and she wrote a collection of little Christmas stories that he would read out during his Christmas sermons. So this is a little slim collection. I thought we could save it for Christmas time. And A Christmas Treasury, because I don't know that many secular families that don't celebrate Christmas just for fun. It's so fun.
This is my book. I know.
We celebrate anything and everything. This year we're going to celebrate Hanukkah too because it also is fun. And it goes through and it just has a variety of Christmas stories and Christmas tales and Christmas poems. So that is what I hauled for you guys and for us today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it encourages you to go to the thrift store. I know a lot of people think that thrift stores are not as useful to them because they have the money to go to Barnes and Nobles and buy books. But here's another little person. Okay, go sit over there for a second. Okay, so that was my haul for today. And I hope it encourages you to go to the thrift store, even if you have the money to shop at Barnes & Nobles, because a couple of the advantages beyond just saving money is the opportunity to see books that are no longer in print and to expose your kids to books that might not be so easily found in their libraries and in their schools. All right, well, I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you next time.